but I'm interested in the both the metabolic changes and advantages that happen when someone comes in, like you're describing right now, high blood pressure, hypertension, maybe they have or have not had cancer, severely overweight on a lot of medications. So they're most likely coming from a SAD diet. So that diet to water fasting to a whole food plant-based, because obviously if they go back to the SAD diet, they're going to be in the same situation at some point after the water fast. So that process, SAD diet to water fasting to whole foods versus or compared to just from a SAD diet to a whole food plant-based diet, is it just the speed?
Well, I'll give you an example. We had our most recent case report that we're publishing was a very famous vegetarian for 15 years who had been on a vegetarian diet strictly, but maybe a little bit of flexibility around the salt and some of this type of stuff. So he developed some elevated blood pressure, and he had a massively elevated what's called lipoprotein(a) measurement, which is thought to be a genetic marker for heart disease. And like, for example, Medicare only pay for one test because it's not considered changeable. It's supposed to be genetic. And so you do one, you're at risk, you're supposed to, go on a healthier diet. But what we did in him is we carefully measured his lipoprotein(a), we measured his blood pressure, weight, et cetera. We put him on a 10-day water fast. Not only did his blood pressure normalize and his weight improve, but his lipoprotein(a) dropped by 40%. And so, we're able to demonstrate that this supposedly genetically unchangeable marker, in fact, may be changeable. And certainly 10 days of fasting was enough to do it. So here's a guy who was already vegetarian and compared to everybody else was pretty healthy. But, that's an individual that still can get profound benefit. In fact, we did a study on healthy.
But that doesn't help the question, because what would have happened if he just dropped dairy?
Well, he wasn't on any dairy. He was on a vegan diet, but he was eating a little bit.
You said he was totally vegetarian.
Yeah, he was on a vegan diet. So no meat, fish, fowl, eggs, or dairy products, but was using a little bit of salt and sugar in the diet. So as you know,
so he's
most
all vegan.
Vegetarians are not health conscious. Most vegetarians are morally, ethically, and spiritually driven. They want to save the animals. They don't want to see animals tortured. They want to save the planet because they recognize that animal husbandry practices are responsible for bigger impact than the internal combustion engine in terms of global warming and the rest. But their own personal health is pretty low down the list for most vegetarians. That's not what's driving most vegetarians primarily.
No, not at all. But I was curious, from SAD diet to water fasting to whole foods, as opposed to SAD diet to whole food plant-based diet. Like, what does the water fasting in between the SAD and the whole food plant-based, strict whole food plant-based, let's say, what does that do as opposed to just, changing your whole diet, which is hard, but they're going to have to do it anyway.
Most people, if they go on a whole plant food SOS-free diet, they will lose weight. Now, they'll lose a pound a day fasting, they'll lose 2 to 3 pounds a week feeding, but they'll eventually get there. So it's a little bit slower, but if you're persistent, you'll achieve your weight goal. Most of them will normalize their blood pressure. Most of them will normalize their arthritic pain. Most of them will get improvement. There are some conditions, though, despite being on a vegetarian and even a whole plant food diet, aren't responding adequately. And so that's where a lot of those patients are referred to us. Dr. McDougall was famous for telling people that we were the punishment. That if somebody went on the vegetarian diet and didn't get enough improvement, he would apologize to them and send them to us for fasting and a stricter regime. But again, most people will respond to diet and lifestyle change alone. Health results from healthful living. It's diet, sleep, exercise. But in some cases, people have trouble doing the diet, or they're doing the diet, it's not responding quickly enough, or they're on a medication profile that's hard for them to get off of. These are patients that will come to us for inpatient care, much more intensive intervention and control. For the vast majority of people, if they just do the whole plant food diet, they wouldn't get fat and sick, and they wouldn't have to deal with these problems. And then fasting would only be used relatively short durations for preventative care. And as I said, we did do a study that showed that proportionally, healthy people got more cardiometabolic improvement even than sick people. So if you take a healthy person on a whole plant food diet, but you introduce 16 hours of fasting every day or a week of fasting once a year, you'll see their numbers improve even additionally. So again, mostly it's diet and lifestyle. And without diet and lifestyle, no matter how much fasting you do, you're not getting where you want to go. You have to do the diet and lifestyle. Fasting may be a tool to help some people speed that process up or deal with a particular problem that may not be resolving with dietary change alone. For example, lymphoma. We have a lot of patients that have been on healthy diets, but their lymphoma tumors continue to grow. You put them on a fast, you see a rapid change. You go from stage 3 lymphoma in 21 days of fasting to not having palpable tumors. Now, the other side is some people are addicted to the artificial stimulation of dopamine in their diets, and they can't get off the sugar, oil, and salt. And so if you put them on a fast and reboot them, now they are able to make that transition. So it's very much like alcoholics. You can say, well, why don't you just quit drinking? Yeah, that works great. If you do it, you win. But some people have trouble doing it. And just like, alcohol, which is the same kind of pleasure trap thing, some people have trouble making the diet and lifestyle changes.